Well, hey, what's up, guys? Rift Insight Season 1, Episode 2.
What the heck?
Sorry, sorry about the few weeks where we didn't actually stream. I'm going to try and make this more of a consistent thing, even if I have to do it myself, obviously, where it's just live streamed League podcasts. You know, I have one that I record, and then I have one where I do with him. He doesn't like other people on because he doesn't like his opinion getting challenged and being wrong. That's pretty much the basis of it.
I bet.
Yeah. So, how was your day, sir?
It's been pretty decent until I said all these things to me.
Oh my god. So far, how have you been thinking where the LCS is going to? You think it's going in a good direction?
I mean, Cloud9 looked pretty weak against Dignitas, which is unfortunate.
You know what's funny? I actually haven't got a chance to watch that game yet. Just that one in particular, because I do my LCS and LEC reviews for the week. I haven't got a chance to watch a few of the games yet, a few of them. But
my big thing about it, first of all, is the fact that I think Dignitas looked. I mean, I'm not sure. Dignitas always has a strong bot lane. I think that's one of the most consistent parts of their team. But like, they just didn't have anything else. Like, that's just the big portion of it. Like, they got ramped up a little bit early, and then they just kind of fell off the face of the earth. They just didn't know what to do about that. Like, it's like they have the mindset of CLG, but with just better players.
But that should be a good thing, shouldn't it?
CLG has the worst team in the. They're the single worst team in the league. I know they might not have the worst record, but I do think.
I don't know. I think that I don't know. IMT still look like the worst team to me. That's just me personally. I think they're fucking dog crap.
I don't know. See, I mean, at the very least, IMT is somewhat. They looked moderately decent with Alorum and what's his name. They looked a lot better. Like with those two players, I do think
with Alorum and Insanity.
I think with both of those two players, I think they are better than CLG now. I think CLG first.
Just those two alone.
I mean, CLG is. First of all, who does CLG have?
I think Smoothie's been playing a little bit more better. Not good, but he's playing a little bit better. He's actually making some impact in the game.
I mean,
he's not a walking bot, you know?
My big thing about it is, regardless of that, I think there's just been no what is it called? There's been no like indicator that they've been playing to a point where they're trying to end the game. Like every single you look at just look at how Freak acted in the TSM versus CLG game. That was just ridiculous, and it pretty much identifies one of the biggest problems that CLG has. They have moderately, they don't have the worst talent in the league. I do still think that was IMT beforehand, but at the same time, they just don't try and get things done. Like they sat back when they had the lead after the early game aggression they had, and then they just didn't proactively make moves around the map. They were late to every objective. They recalled before each one, and that really just shows the state at which I think CLG is in right now. Like they're not it's not just players. I do think they have a problem with talent in the pool, but at the same time, I think it's a mentality thing at the end of the day. I think it's a coaching staff issue. I think there's a lot of issues that go on along the lines in CLG that aren't getting addressed because of the fact that they just. I mean, I really don't know. I don't know why they're not getting addressed. They've been there for 3 years now. So
my thing, as you guys know, from my behind the scenes knowledge that I'm able to gather, even from a few people that I know. There was something where the person told me, and the person alluded to one of the past CLG rosters not working because there wasn't a person that was like Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant for their team. So you know what I'm trying to say, right? There wasn't a person to push these players. I guess past a certain threshold. You know, people underestimate. You have to have a leader on a team that's willing to push you and put you in a certain situation. So like G2, for example, a few splits ago, before they're looking as kind of bad as they do right now. So that person that I would put that on is someone like Perks, who obviously pushes his team to be better. Someone like Caps, who always wants to win. Someone like Yankos, who always wants to win. You have basically a roster full of players that always want to win. But who's that player on CLG that you're looking at right now? Ruin, Wiggly, 6A, Pobelter. Where's the oomph? You know, where's the Kobe Bryant to hey, no, stop playing this bad. We gotta turn this team around. There's not that player on the team.
I don't know about that. I don't know about that. I think there is somebody in there that's saying, "Wow, you guys are playing bad." That's not the problem. It's not about.
I don't know, because like for the past, like for what she told me, it's just like the past rosters didn't work out because there wasn't that person to nudge them to get better or pass a certain threshold. Like, because they all know that they were talented, they all knew that, but there wasn't that person to give you that next X factor in there.
I mean, I think it all comes down to the fact that it's not mostly about somebody pushing them past that point. I think it's somebody that's leading the team in general. It doesn't have to be somebody who's telling you to win or anything, but like, I think I think something that's more beneficial than somebody who's able to push you and encourage you to win is somebody who's able to keep the mentality the same after a loss. They don't have to, like, it seems like after each loss, like after the first loss, I think at the beginning of the year, CLG looked a lot more like relevant than they do now in the situation that they're in now, because they didn't have somebody pushing them past that, like keeping them like the attitude of the team continually going positive. Like IMT at the beginning of the year looked great. And like, again, anybody can look good.
I don't know if they look great.
They looked good enough. I think great.
They looked better.
The level at which they can play it. Is all I'm saying. Like they
looked better than people thought they would look.
But at the end of the day, like they weren't able to keep that going because of the fact that they didn't have, like, not only did they not have the talent because they had the worst talent in the league, but they didn't have that person that had the mentality to push them past that we're losing now, but we can get back to that point. On top of the fact, they just have a terrible coaching staff. That's what it is. Like, that's IMT, that's CLG. Coaching staff is a big issue. You can't blame it on the coach, the players, because all the players are getting replaced consistently, yet the problem is still relevant. It's an environmental issue, and it's somebody who it comes down to the core of the coaching staff. There's not somebody in there who understands the game at a decently high level. But Gilmore Boxing said TSM fans are deluded. I don't know.
Oh, he's talking about that. There was this big TSM subreddit post where this person basically said that TSM is better than Cloud9 right now, but they're just not showing it because they want to hide their strats for playoffs, and they thought the CLG game that they just played this past weekend was a banger game. That was one of the best games all split.
I want to point out, TSM fans, TSM at this point in time is the single best they've looked all year. Like, I think Spica, as much as I don't want to say it, has been an upgrade over Dardoch, specifically because it's changed the way this.
Oh, you're willing to admit you were wrong. Oh.
I mean, yeah. I'm saying, I think, yeah, I mean, whatever. I don't think he's a great jungler, but I do think that the shift at which the team took after Spica came in, like, it's not because their early game is still decent because they have good laners, but at the same time, it's not just that. It's the fact that, like, you don't need somebody who's going to take aggressive plays that might not work out at the end of the day and be a negative impact in just a hit or miss situation like Dardoch provided, because Bjergsen's took over is one of, like, a top 2 mid laner in the league at this point. I think he's been one of the best mid laners in the league, with just how impactful he's been around the map. If you look,
he played really good this past week against CLG.
This specific week, I think he was the best.
He looked pretty good this week. It proves that
he was the best mid laner in the league this week. That's all I'm going to say. I think that's the big situation for me. I think I might be a little disappointed in a few of the things that, I mean, again, I really do wish at the end of the day that they had a better jungler, but it's just, I do think it's an upgrade. I was wrong about that. I hate it. I don't like the fact that Spica is an upgrade, but the identity of the team has changed. But Dardoch is a carry that's inconsistent because of the fact that he's just not playing as well as he used to. I think that they don't need a carry because Bjergsen's taken over that role, and that's why they don't need it anymore. Bjergsen's been on top of the early game recently. But at the same time, I don't think they're better than Cloud9. I mean, Cloud9 is just incredible. I think Cloud9's had a few bad games.
Suspect early games, I would say. The early game is suspect.
Well, I just don't understand. I don't like Kog'Maw. I think with the state of the game as it is right now, poking comps only work with mid laners that are able to peel themselves because, I don't know. There's just so much hard engage in the meta right now. I don't like Kog'Maw. Kog'Maw is able to lane well. He's able to do all these things well. But if that was the case, Xerath would have been in the meta for a little bit because, again, he provides a similar function to Kog'Maw, but it's more consistent damage early on top of the fact that he's able to get people off of him with not just a slow. Poke damage in and of itself is not the good. It's not the quality that you want out of poke comps. Like Varus is good in a poke comp with the lethality because he can ult and get himself out of trouble and engage with that. Like, what's his name? Like Azir is able to peel back and he has sustained damage. Like all of these things are able to happen. Pick AP Kog'Maw into a person that was famous for AP Kog in 2015. I don't understand. I mean, I don't know. I don't think it had anything to do with the fact that what's it called about that. It's just you make a few mistakes as Kog'Maw against Syndra and you lose the lane. You literally can't win the lane at that point. I agree. I don't know if it was Power of Evil. I think many people would have taken advantage of him in this situation because he was just playing terrible. Like that was improper plays on his part, getting caught out so much. But I do agree. Like I still don't like Kog'Maw mid. I mean, I think it's probably to become.
I never liked the idea of Kog'Maw mid anyway, even when it was big back in season 5.
I loved when Xerath was big. I mean, it was fun. I just think that with the situation, maybe I'm wrong. I mean, again, I could be wrong. It's been playing more often than I'm giving it credit for. I mean, Kog'Maw mid has been played a few times, but I don't like how it functions. I don't like lack of self peel kind of poke mids. I really like with the ability of ADCs right now and their ability to either sustain or bring utility. I don't think it's really necessary. Like you're relying on the ADC to also bring some form of peel for you to be able to survive. And I think that there's only like Varus. Ashe has some, but I don't think it's enough. I don't like two people being forced into like you have to peel two people at that point. And like I don't know. The only thing Kog'Maw provides to self peel is slow. You can't really play peel back comp because that's really the only way poke comps function is a way to disengage from hard engage. And that's just not something Kog'Maw provides. But again, at the end of I think the big situation right now for NA is the fact that I do think TSM is drastically better than last split and everybody else is way worse. Like that's just the worst. That's the worst thing for me because I don't think a single team improved besides TSM. Like that's unfortunate. I think there was a lot of at the very least changes in rosters to where I would say that there might have been decent there was decent chances for them to improve. I think Evil Geniuses still has a pretty solid bot lane, but I mean Jukesei is he's not fully there. I think Kumo's improved pretty drastically this split.
Yeah, if we had to give a most improved player of the split so far, I think I'd give it to Kumo. He basically went from the 9th best top laner to about where would you rank him right now? The 3rd best top laner?
He's not better than Licorice. He's not better than. He might be better than it someday, actually. It's hard.
I don't know. He went from basically 9th to about top 5 at least.
At the very least, yeah. I wouldn't. I would have to think about it, but at the same, I really do think he's improved pretty well. I think there's just the state of IMT is one of the bigger things that I'm actually proud of, though, because I do think that kind of shows that there are. Even if there aren't a lot there, and they're not incredibly good quality, there are solid players in the academy scene that people should be willing to take advantage of. Because I mean, Linsanity and Alorum have been. I mean, I keep calling him Linsanity. Insanity and Alorum.
No, his name was Linsanity before.
Yeah, I know. That's why I'm calling him that.
I thought he played pretty good. He played pretty good.
They've both been pretty solid. I think. I don't think they're as good as Johnson is, but there's about 3 rookies this year that I think have been an improvement over the predecessors that have been a pretty large increase in talent. I also think Demonte coming back into the scene was a good improvement over Golden Glue, even though I think Golden Glue played moderately well. So I mean, I think there's a lot of native talent coming back into NA that wasn't there before, which is a good thing to see.
So our first topic tonight would be 100 Thieves. So 100 Thieves, after losing to a pretty grueling game against TSM, decide to actually kick... What the heck is that? Oh my god. What the heck? Oh my lord. What is that? What is this? Sorry. Maybe my mic.
It's an ad. Why'd you have to mute your mic for it? Just turn it off. Just mute the volume.
What the heck?
Volume button on the side. Why are you not doing that?
Oh my god, it's still going. Turn off. Sorry guys. Technical difficulties.
You know what volume buttons do? It's on your phone, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like it's okay. So 100 Thieves. Let me start over. I'm so sorry about that. Oh my god, I'm so sorry. Sorry about that. So 100 Thieves had a pretty grueling game against TSM, and then after they lost a pretty close game to TSM, basically back and forth. TSM's like, I don't want to win. You can win. 100 Thieves is like, I don't want to win. I do not care about even winning at all. You can win. TSM's like, hold my beer. I can throw even harder than you can. 100 Thieves is like, nah, I'm good. You can win too. Didn't matter at the end of the day because Bjergsen did his best Peke impression and backdoored when they clearly could have stopped him. But nevertheless, they choose to put Meteos in Academy and just kick Stunt entirely.
Stunt was just a tragedy. I don't know what he was one of the most promising supports like talents coming up recently to just somebody who I think deserved to be kicked. And it's unfortunate that's the situation that's at hand, but I mean, it is what it is. I think my big thing about what is it?
Meteos?
My big thing about Meteos is that he handled the situation a lot worse than Stunt did. I mean, they both played like terrible, but I think Meteos was holding on to the old 100 Thieves did him dirty in the previous years.
Mm-hmm. I even said, remember, I called it. I even said, bringing back all these rosters, all these band back together rosters is not a good idea because it never actually solves the reason why you broke up. And if you start losing, it's only a reflection of why you even let this person go. Hey, I'm not always right, but when I'm right, it's just like, come on, like.
I think you're right for the wrong reasons. Is the big
no, but like just I factor in why would you never want to get back with an ex-girlfriend?
I'm saying right now, I think the big reason the old roster didn't work out was the turmoils between the coach and the players. The coach was removed, so these problems shouldn't exist anymore. Yet somehow they existed,
but they never got fixed either.
Well, they didn't exist. They only existed.
Well, just because you removed it. Well, just because you removed it doesn't mean the actual problem. Rid of the problem. No. But there might have been other problems that never got resolved.
You know what? Those are hypotheticals. Those are things we can't know. I mean, realistically, if you get rid of the root of the problem, getting rid of Meteos was one of the solutions before. I'd argue Ryu is better than Ryoma. I don't think that's the case at all, man. I think I really like.
Oh no, he's not wrong.
Ryu in his prime was weather. I agree. Ryu, the last time he played 100 Thieves was not. I mean, I did not like what Ryu provided. But,
but do you like what Ryoma provides?
I think Ryoma has had just a few solid games. I think he has had those.
I don't think getting kills just makes you good. I mean, we're looking at kill scores.
Ryu was on carry. Well, yeah, every once in a while. I mean, Ryu getting fed, and I mean, he looked good in his TSM game. I want to give him credit. It wasn't just kills that he did. He did provide a lot of pressure. Like I don't think he's consistent enough, and I think if I had the chance, I would replace him. But I don't want to give him no credit. I think Ryu, by the end of his career, just looked like not the same player anymore. I just think he was a liability in a lot of situations. It was just so many micro mistakes that somebody who I think Ryoma wouldn't make, the auto attack mistake that he did against Caps. Was it Caps? Not Caps.
What's against Caps on World Group stage?
Caps, yeah.
Yeah, didn't take the claw for one auto. It could have killed him.
Yeah, there's a lot of mistakes, but at the same time, maybe Ryoma would never get those situations because he wouldn't get him that low. I don't know.
But no, I'm trying to ask, should Ryoma be considered an underdog? Because I think people are looking at kill scores and not looking at actual gameplay.
I think he played fine in TSM. He did his game
against game.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying he's good. I'm saying he's had a few solid games here and there.
But it's the 8th best mid laner though.
That's better than the 10th. That's all I can say.
He's better than Aika. Man, those standards are high. If you're better than Aika.
I mean, I'm not trying to say he's good. I'm just saying I think he's better than Ryu. It was at the end of his career.
I actually thought he played pretty good too, but I thought he played good enough for what he was given. Yeah. You know, when he tried to carry, it just didn't look that good because he never gets into that position very often. So I think he didn't really know what to do, though. He got caught out with a blitz hook, and he had flash. He has flash up, and he can flash the hook, and he gets hooked when he has flash up on Azir.
I'm not going to say it wasn't a bad situation for him, but at the same time, I think that game was not on his shoulders. It was his to lose at that point in time.
Yeah. I just don't know, like where to really put him.
Meteos and what's his name were throwing super hard that game.
I mean, dude, Stunt was. Oh my god, Stunt would consistently go.
My head.
No, whatever. I mean, Meteos definitely threw a lot.
I don't know. I disagree. He was on his ear. I don't know. I don't know what you're trying to say. I disagree. He was on his ear. What do you mean?
That he should have carried the game.
I mean, I don't think he should have carried that game. Like, honestly, I think you can carry on his ear. I think the situation was all of his abilities to get carries, to be able to carry, were taken away with how much of his team was caught out, and pretty consistently throughout before each objective and before each one of the team fights. Like, I don't think he played like a god, but at the same time, with the level at which most people play at in NA, I don't think you could expect a win off of based off how his teammates were playing. Like, if it was Faker or like some other like caps on Bjergsen, on Azir, I think they might have been able to carry. But I don't expect that from most mid laners, so I'm not going to expect that from him. If fourth to third best mid laner wouldn't have done that. Like, I don't like again.
So if you put Jizuke in that. If you put Jizuke in that position,
well, it just depends on what Jizuke comes. To be fair, Jizuke could be any player on the
or you could have the Jizuke that plays Karma and goes 0-7 in the next 15 minutes.
But again, I agree with that. And all of NA is playing volleyball and throwing. I agree with that. Team Liquid is the worst culprit of that. They consistently get wins, not off taking advantage of anything, but just the enemy making mistakes eventually and not knowing how to close out the game, and they get wins off that. They're the single worst positive team in the NA scene, and I put them at number 2 like 2 weeks ago, and now I think they're like the 6th best team. Like, it's
so weird. There's like Cloud9, you could argue TSM second place, and then there's
argue that. I think TSM is undoubtedly the 2nd best team right now.
Well, I mean, you have FlyQuest, EG.
FlyQuest is nowhere near as good as them, especially with how Mash has been playing recently. Like, I don't think you can. I think Evil Genius is honestly also struggling a little bit against some of the lower tier teams. TSM is not as good as Cloud9, but I don't think any of the middle tier teams are as good as TSM. I think there's like a few different tiers right now.
But then you get to a point where, but instead of benching Stunt, they just choose to kick him outright. But they bench Meteos though. Is that a reason that they don't want to have the bad PR or public backlash from dropping Meteos like they did before? About the whole 2018 summer situation he went through, because they just chose to kick Stunt outright. They chose
I don't think it had anything to do with it, because the fact that Stunt has not shown, he only had a few solid years in his career, and honestly there's no potential. But Meteos could bounce back from what I would say is last year. I think last year he was pretty solid. Find Stunt a lost cause for 2 years he was there. I agree. I think Stunt just wasn't showing any potential, where so was Meteos. I think he looked pretty solid last year. I think he's looked pretty solid most of his career, and at any given point, he still. So
you don't want to just take the one bad year.
I'm going to say he has the leadership qualities that do actually work out when he's playing well. So I think you could make something out of him, but Stunt there, I just don't think there's a way to make it work with him anymore. I think he
was going 0-8 in every single game. 0-8. He would consistently be 0-8. Like, he just consistently getting caught out, warding like crap, always. His laning went from pretty good with Cody-san to just complete dog shit. What happened?
Yeah, that laning prowess that Cody-san provided, huh?
I mean, Cody-san was better at laning last split. I thought he got better at it, but then this split with Stunt, I mean, he had a support who was basically running it down on him all game long, so what can he really do, honestly? But that's just, how I see things. But for the 100 Thieves games, now they have contracts, and Poom in this roster, right? Did I get his name right? Poom. So, what did you think about 100 Thieves with the changes?
Say it again, sorry.
What did you think about 100 Thieves with the changes? Now they brought in contracts and Poom from their academy team and moved into the starting roster.
I don't know. I mean, they still didn't do well in like record-wise, but at the same time, I mean, I think making the change was a good idea. I don't know. I wasn't impressed with either one of their play. But at the very least, I think that contracts played better than Meteos did all year. So they're saying there's that.
That's crazy to think, because that guy was on Golden Guardians for a while, and people just thought he was washed up.
I mean, he was washed up for a while, but I mean, contracts did play better than Meteos, in my opinion. I think there's that. It's crazy. Like, good, mediocre junglers go onto Cloud9 and do pretty solid. I really think there's something in there. I really think there's some. They know how to create junglers, in my opinion.
Something in the water.
I don't think there's anything. I think it's like I'm really impressed with the coaching staff jungle wise. Like I think that's always been their best role. Like in terms of developing people. Because
what people would actually ask, what would Contracts provide any differently than Meteos? He doesn't feed. That's good enough.
I think it's just Meteos tried to be the shot caller and it just wasn't happening this split. So we needed to take out that overbearing voice and replace him with somebody a little more quiet. I think, and let somebody else try and take over the position of shot caller because Meteos is not going to give up on that.
So 100 Thieves, they went, 1-1 this week? They lost to Golden Guardians, but they beat Dig. Dig is like the worst team in the league, so you expect them, obviously, to beat Dig. I mean, so they're 2-6 right now, and they were our third-place team after the standings in spring 2020, and then they got, 5th place in the rankings for playoffs? Why is it always TSM to give them hard games? It's weird. They play, always 50-minute games, just slugfest. What is that?
Rauma turns into a second Bjergsen against Bjergsen. It's just ridiculous to me. Like he always plays so well against him. It's fun to watch, but I think it gives us a false hope on what his potential can actually be because he just hasn't shown it anywhere else. Or maybe
so you'd say he's very inconsistent.
I think. Well, it's just without a doubt he's inconsistent. I don't think anybody can argue that he's the most inconsistent player in the league. He has a few good games per season, but at the same time, I wouldn't say he's the most inconsistent because he's pretty consistent about being bad. It's just every once in a while he throws a good game in there.
I just don't know. Their macro, from what I'm showing you guys, their macro has always a lot left to be desired because it's always the same thing. It's just spelt differently. Like a homophone. They're the same thing except each year is just tainted differently to the point where you think something's changing, but it's not. So every single one of their games is usually someday either is on a carry or he's on a tank, and they let the other guys kind of more or less so carry, quote unquote, right? But they've always had the same style. Their macro has never really improved. They also have kind of always have. They've never even had the best players. They've always had good enough players that are probably third, fourth in their positions. But you can make that work though. The issue with the 100 Thieves is that they always trying to do this weird hybrid late game, early game style that they don't really know how to close out with. They don't really know how to play each style, so they try to mix them both, and it doesn't work out. Their drafting is really, really suspect. You have Zix, that's still their coach, but it's just I don't really know. Some days Ryoma plays really good. And really good is on his average good days, I don't know, maybe oh god, if I'm ranking out of 10, he usually has, yeah, you're right, a couple good games out of the split so far, but it's I don't really know what to think about this team anymore.
I do want to point out, I think Boom was a drastic upgrade over Stun. I think he's played pretty decent.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I'm happy with the quality that he's playing at. I don't think he's as good as Alorum was, but at the same time, Linsanity was, but I don't at the same time he's not bad. They made a change in the right direction in my opinion. I think it might pay off in the future, but as it stands right now, they're probably not gonna even if they do make playoffs, they're not gonna do much of it. They just
they're literally getting knocked out first round.
Yeah, they're getting knocked probably.
What if Dig make a miraculous run, make playoffs, and then they're just the most insane team ever in a best of 5? You'll be like, man, I was telling people that Dardoch was the best jungler, man.
I never said he was the best jungler. I said he would improve on a lot of their mistakes, and I think they looked better with him than they did with the Kaden at the very least.
But they
did. They won. They did pretty solid in the early game against Cloud9. Giving him credit is a bit of a stretch.
But then this day against 100 Thieves, they didn't really,
They are proactive with him. You can't deny that. That's
an improvement. At least he makes an improvement in a place where they drastically needed it.
The problem is they brought in Dardoch and the Academy mid laner, which doesn't make sense. Why
bring in the worst mid lane? Why bring in a worser mid laner than Froggen?
Froggen was not needing to be replaced. He has a bad
He's bad though.
Froggen's not bad. Froggen has a bad mentality towards the game, but he's still a better mid laner than what's his name?
Phoenix.
Phoenix should not have taken his spot. I'm sorry.
I mean, they just probably want to shake up the roster. Phoenix, Dardoch, and Lolo have all played together before.
Like, 6 different people, like, replace a few pieces. I think the top laner should have been replaced. I think the jungler could have been replaced. I think it could have been. I don't think the mid laner should have been replaced. I think they had a pretty solid bot lane going on, and Froggen, when he's on, is fine. I mean, especially last year.
But he hasn't been on, though. Well, he hasn't been on, though.
It's only been like 6 games, dude. Calm down. I think we're exaggerating how long it's been.
Was he really on last split either?
He was extremely. Yes, I think he was. You're mistaking a bad mentality towards the game for being bad. He's not bad. He doesn't play poorly. He usually wins his lane. He's one of the most impactful team fighting mid laners in the league. Like, he's scaled. Like, the problem is his understanding of what the game is like now is bad. So he shouldn't be the shot caller. That's the only problem I have with him. If they can kind of transform a shot, like a more early game like early game shot caller, which what I thought is what Dardoch is, into the team, it might give him a better understanding of what the game is like now. Yet they, instead of what I was saying would be a good educational situation for like Froggen, they replace him immediately so they don't get to play together, which really is it's just sad to me.
Like, you got what you wanted. Dardoch's in the starting roster.
Yeah,
now.
But they didn't play him with Froggen, which was my whole point.
I don't think Froggen's playstyle and Dardoch's playstyle would actually match up, though.
It doesn't matter.
Acadian was being aggressive, and Froggen did essentially nothing.
That type of aggression. It's not.
It's like Nidalee. You're built to play aggressive.
You're literally mistaking everything that goes into jungling. What I'm trying to say is he's not a shot caller. He's not the aggressive shot caller. He's a functional. I gank a little bit in the early game kind of jungler, and Dardoch takes over the shot calling role in the early game. Those are the difference between these two players, and that's why Dardoch is always the fastest paced jungler in the league. Like, regardless of if he dies or not, he's always going for something. He's always forcing the team to function around him.
No, but what I'm trying to say is Phoenix complements that. Phoenix complements that because Phoenix is always going to play aggressive. Phoenix will always play aggressive no matter what. Even if he always has permagank, doesn't matter. He'll always play aggressive. Froggen doesn't always play aggressive.
I don't agree with that in the slightest. I think that Froggen, again, what I'm trying to say is you can't make a good player out of Phoenix. It's not going to happen. You can, with the correct team around him, try and hopefully get Froggen to look at the correct way. Like, he has never had that team around him. He's never had the team that is going to take most of the shot calling position away from him or forcibly shove the early game pace in the opposite direction. Like, even if he's never had that team yet, consistently people are going to say it doesn't work. In reality, they've never, like, he should have taken the steps himself to understand that that's what the game's like now. But maybe this would have done it for him. You just never got to see it.
I don't know. I think that
these are hypothetical. I don't know if it would work or not. I'm hoping.
I just don't think that pairing up a player who literally has been playing Orianna and sitting in lane, pretty much doing nothing, is going to work with a jungler like Dardoch, who is actively moving around the map, trying to make an impact.
Or let's not pretend that Froggen's not insanely good on TF. I think that's still a thing. I think you can get him to play those types of characters. He just isn't playing them now because he has some sort of understanding of he has a solid bot lane now, so he wants to play this team fighting oriented mid laner. That's just his whole thing. I'm sad about it.
But nevertheless, I mean, Dardoch is back. I mean, I liked what I saw out of him. It's just like, is this too little too late? I mean, should they have just started? Do you think that they should just start a Dardoch from the start?
Well, I want them to iron out their problems before anything.
I mean, like, people keep saying about prime Dardoch on, like, like Dig subreddit, Reddit. It's like no player is always in their prime anyway. That you're not going to get that though. And you're definitely not going to get his prime with these players. That's not happening.
We'll see. Twisted Fate is a nice champion. Well, I mean, I think in general, like Froggen, if you look at when he first came over to NA, was the single best TF in the league. Like, we saw him take over games, building rapid fire against, was it TSM that year?
Yeah.
I don't know. He was on Echo Fox. It was incredible to see the way he played. I like watching Froggen play. I still think he has what it takes. I just think until he fixes the mentality towards the game, I think there's not much hope for seeing him be on a successful team. But I mean, he might be able to.
That pretty much sums it up for 100 Thieves. They went 1-1 this week. Maybe that win against Dig will kick them into shape. I don't know. We'll see what happens. All right, next topic is Fnatic lose to Schalke Null Fear. What is going on with Fnatic, the team that's always been either top of EU or perennially second place since G2 Esports, my second team, came into the league? What happened? Schalke's been doing bad. And Fnatic also have been bad. But Schalke beat Fnatic. They were winless before this game. Winless. Nothing.
I mean, I don't know what you want me to say, man.
Fnatic have never looked this bad. You know, like, what was that split last year? Spring 2019?
What about 3 years ago?
No, spring 2019. Remember how they started 0-4 and they kind of turned it around? They went on like an 11-game win streak, 12-game win streak or some shit like that. They looked bad right then in that split, right? But they didn't look this bad. This is just bad.
I mean, this definitely is their worst in a while, but it's not the worst I've ever seen them. You shut down top laners using TF. That's because you can't. You have to take into consideration anytime he leaves Fog of War, you can't contest CS if it's not towards your turret. I can understand why he's a top lane shutdown, but he shuts out. Like, that's what I hate about TF. He has so much impact on the game without really having to be smart about it. He can literally just like kind of moderately walk towards top, and you just can't participate anymore in the CSing.
So, what do you think is the underlying issue as to the reason why Fnatic are not at the top of their game right now? Because losing to Schalke should be a definite slap to the face of the fans.
There's a few situations. I think they're drafting.
Let's start with drafting then.
I think their drafting situation has been a little like hit or miss. I mean, that's the big thing about, like, I don't know how to say it. I think it's pretty obvious that they're not drafting towards the strengths of the team. Like, the two most consistent players on the team right now are going to be Self-Made and Reckless. And I think it's kind of hard to play around a team that does really just has a third player every once in a while with Hillisang. I think that they're playing. I feel like they're trying to play this style that they played last split, yet they're not succeeding at it because of the fact that the players themselves are playing worse. Like, the drafting phase has obviously been a problem, but I get whatever. I think that could be marginalized by the fact that they could have. I mean, that could be ignored if they were playing better. I think they would still be one of the top teams in the league, but they're just genuinely playing worse. I don't get it. I don't know what the problem is. It's not a problem that was relevant in last split. They haven't really swapped anything up yet. They're significantly worse.
They got an upgrade in jungler, so everything should be better.
Last split, they still.
Well, yeah, because like you come into this year with a better jungler, so these early game issues should not be a thing, though.
Well, I'm saying, I mean, obviously last split they were one of the best. They were the second best team, like perennial second best team. Like, there was no way you could take that away from them, and they looked like they could have been the first best team for a little bit, but it's been taken away a little bit because you can't really only blame the drafting phase because they could have won with these drafts last split. I'm sorry, it could have happened. Even though I do agree with it, it is probably the worst thing about it. Like, I think that is probably one of the worst problems that Fnatic has, because Cloud9, if they were playing this poorly, would have lost a few less games because they have one of the best drafting phases like in the Western scene. But I think that doesn't really make a difference. I think even if they didn't fix this drafting phase right now, Bwipo is one of the worst, like a bottom 3 top laner right now. Like, Nemesis, he might actually be the worst mid laner right now.
Oh, no. Don't tell me that. No, there's Abadage.
Abadage, he's worse than Abadage right now, in my opinion. I think Abadage has had a few better
games. No, and they're special. Special is garbage.
Maybe
that guy is complete trash. Nickname I somewhat blame Mithy. His drafts are completely unfitting toward what the players did before he took over. This hid their weaknesses. Now their weaknesses are exposed. And then you draft Hillisang, Nautilus, and Tom Kench, 2 champs he historically hard ints on. Where is his Thresh?
I don't understand. Like, Nautilus literally functions moderately similar to Thresh in some ways, yet he's tankier, so he should die less often. Because if you miss your hook with Nautilus, you're not going to die. But if you do it with Thresh, you're dead. Like, that's just he has the flay off of them in the box, but pretty much Thresh really has lower base stats and all these things, he's more vulnerable than Nautilus, yet somehow Hillisang can't play it as well. It doesn't make sense to me. Nautilus kind of makes sense. He has a completely different function than most of the other support champs in the league, but Nuketook literally just isn't getting. It doesn't even make sense. They're literally trying to shift the way they play the game, even though they still have Nuketook. It's idiotic.
I called it. Remember, another thing. I'm always right. Nightwing.
What did you call? Tell me what you called right now. Say it right now.
They're gonna have an identity crisis. I said it. I think it was
you say that about every team, every single team. I don't want to hear that.
I called it. I said they're gonna have an identity crisis because people complained that they couldn't really watch Origin games because they're boring.
Who cares about boring?
Hold on. Origin also admit they don't really draft for early game. Now this split, they're trying to draft for early game and play like G2.
Okay, I'm going to point out right now
that's just not working.
That sounds silly. You're saying they shifted their entire playstyle that was succeeding last
No.
because people said they're boring.
No. Because even the players themselves, by how they talk in interviews and stuff like that, the players have said in like specific interviews, a lot of them acknowledge that they want to play faster, but they're just not doing it. Like they're acknowledging they want to play faster, right? But they're not doing
drafting towards playing faster. That's the problem. It doesn't even make sense because
let me go to a comp they play this week then, because why tell you guys when we can visually show you what they're actually drafting.
LCK equals LEC right now. Well, you could say whatever you want. They're not drafting faster paced picks. They're drafting slower paced picks because they're picking less aggressive mid laners. That's the big thing about it. If you're not going to shift Nukeduck off the team, then you have to continually pick him assassins. Like you can't shift from that identity anymore. I don't understand. He can't play these different picks, and that's just something he's not gonna ever play like Caps. It's just not him as a player. It's just not gonna happen. Assassins well. Like I don't understand. Like he had no problems with those.
Let's look at this drafting phase. Let's look at this. Let's analyze this beautiful half and half Origin draft they have. All right, so. Oh my god, sorry about that, guys. Sorry about that. I'll bring this down a little bit more. Right here. All right, so you got the Aatrox, Volibear, Azir, Kalista, and you have Leona. So explain to us, since you're obviously high diamond, almost challenger, why is this draft not good for Origin in terms of their actual playstyle?
I mean, this is one of the slowest paced comps you can like. You have an aggressive pick in the bot lane, but that's really the only fast paced comp you really have. They're playing towards a 1-3-1 comp towards the mid to late game. On top of the fact that they're trying to make it versatile because this team comp can also team fight extremely well. They have 2 TPs, which obviously pretty much solidifies the fact like everybody takes TP to be fair, but still, like it's 2 TPs for the side lane. Orianna cannot fight against Nukeduck on the Azir once he gets 2 to 3 items. It's just impossible for him to hold the side lanes. Aatrox just never. You can't beat.
Why are people perennially still picking Aatrox?
Aatrox is incredibly good. He's a really good duelist that's never like even if he doesn't kill what's his name? Like
he doesn't get kills, right?
He has the ability with his ult to be able to engage pretty well with his W and all that stuff. On top of the fact that like he zones off a lot of people because he can do a lot of AoE burst damage off the bat, and he's a decent bruiser. So he functions in a lot of different ways. He's able to be hard engaged in some ways. He's able to 1-3-1 extremely easy. Like if you get Ornn into a side lane later on down the line with the items that Aatrox gets and the innate sustain he has, he's able to beat him out on that aspect. But I think that's the big problem I have with this pick is like they're trying to swap to a more team fight oriented like comp because I think if they want to do what they have, like they want to make it work because they have Upset, who's an incredibly good ADC. So they're trying to function more around using him as the main carry. But I don't know. I don't like them trying to shift into this. Is using Herald twice versus Bard, what are you doing? I mean, at some points you can make it to the point where he's forced to do that so he doesn't have it for a team fight, but they didn't do that. Like I get it can happen. It's just like I didn't understand. Like they never did it properly. They literally just consistently shut down their use of Rift Herald each time. It's like most people in like gold to platinum notice that these things happen. They won't like immediately ult if they see a Bard there because they know what's going to happen. They don't just like, wow, Bard did this. They preemptively notice this stuff, which makes no sense to how, like, did they just not care that Bard was going to do this and they were trying to make something happen soon?
They like, probably didn't. They probably just didn't assume they could do it in those moments and it would be advantageous.
I mean, my big thing about it is you lose Bard ult, you really genuinely just lose a massive amount of hard engage that you have, and it makes sense to get rid of it sometimes. It forces Bard to use his ult right there. But they didn't really do anything after forcing Bard to lose his ult. Like, they kind of contested dragons sometimes, but at the same time, it's just like, I don't know. They didn't team fight properly, so there's not really anything they gained off of it. And Bard was still able to get in there and hard engage somehow with his Q. That didn't make it. I don't know. I mean, the team in general just looks a lot sloppier on these types of slower paced team comps. Like, they're trying to team fight a little too often. I really prefer him.
They have a mixture of team fight, CC, and a little bit of early game presence with their Kalista on Aatrox too.
Kalista Leona just provides a lot of hard engage, and that's why. Plus, they win lane against everybody. Like,
but Origin also, they're not only are they having an identity crisis, they're just not playing good at all. Like, there's some things in Fnatic where you can play, self-made, Reckless playing pretty good overall, trying to carry their team. Origin, all they got is Alphari. They have Alphari and Upset, and I mean, Alphari hasn't been that great either.
My big thing about it, I agree, Mad Lions do look promising, but at the same time, how good do they look because they don't have any competition anymore? Like, the two teams who I think, honestly, both Fnatic and G2 were better last split than they are this split, don't look good anymore. Like, I put Mad Lions at number 3. I did think they were going to be the best out of the top 2, but the two teams that I thought were going to be better than them have completely fell apart. Like, I get why J2 makes perfect sense. It's a tragedy that all this stuff happens.
Perks lost his dad. They don't have their shot caller.
It's not even just a shot caller. The mentality of the team is really, it's negative right now. I get it. It 100% makes sense to me. Fnatic is just...
Fnatic has no issue. Fnatic really have no excuse at all. They just suck.
They're not drafting differently. They are playing differently because they're playing poorly, but it's just, how do you make this team work now? They're all around just playing poorly. They're not laning well. They're not playing smart. They're like, they've all turned into Hillisang's understanding of the game because they see something happening in front of them and they try and it's not just that. It's like they're losing every single lane. Whippo is the single worst laning top lane in the league, almost maybe. One of the bottom 3 at the very least, top laning wise. Nemesis is the worst mid laner in the league. Like, Hillisang is inconsistent. I don't want to keep saying it. Can you really argue who's worse than him? Like,
for Nemesis?
Yeah, Special, you're gonna say? I don't think he is.
Special's pretty bad. God, he's horrible.
I could have at the very least. I think the fact that
Abadage is special. Abadage is special.
I think Abadage is better than both of them pretty handily.
Man, the day where Abadage is considered better than Nemesis. Whoa, what timeline we living in? I mean, I'm not saying that's, a hot take or anything. It's just like, I never thought I would ever lump Nemesis together with Abadage and Special. You got memed on for putting Nemesis as... Man, they're not playing as good as Nemesis. They're not going to all play as good as Nemesis. That's why they can't be good. Now they are playing as good as Nemesis. That's why they suck.
Okay, that hurts me.
You have the worst luck in terms of calling things. Oh my God, Sven's gonna be the best. Sven's gonna be the best ADC. There's a little bit. You're a little too early on that.
Too early on that one. I said Vulcan. I was right on Vulcan though. I did say he was gonna be the best support this year.
I was wrong on that one. I was like, they're playing an academy. How good is NA Academy? It was NA Academy's like always pretty bad. But I was like,
about the competition around you, you can usually see how good a player is based off of the plays they either attempt to make.
I mean, he had to lane with Piglet, so it's just like, I respect the man.
You
for
just
that.
say stuff to me that you know is gonna make me sad.
But I mean, what can Fnatic do to turn around? Like, do you just play one play style to start winning some games? Because they have to win some games.
They're not going to change anything from the draft. It doesn't start from anything besides the bottom up of they need to just lane better right now. It all stems from them consistently just mechanically playing poorly. It's really a few times they just make boneheaded mistakes, but usually they're not in a position to be winning the game because they're behind early. Like, I don't know.
Who was it? Nick Name said that Mithy's drafting exposes their weaknesses.
I
like,
agree.
if you don't because remember how last year Youngbook had that problem where if he didn't draft specifically what they could play, they would lose games. If they don't draft specific things for the Fnatic players, they just don't really know what to do.
I mean, I think it all comes down to the fact that they draft team comps against team comps that do what they do but better. Like, they had a lot of hard engage on the comp against Schalke. But at the same time, like, Schalke had Leona, Galio, and Wukong, so they have to hard engage into a team that genuinely engages better than them. Has more burst on the top of that, besides, like, maybe Nemesis or Syndra. But, like, at that point in time, your best chance is for Nemesis to play better than everybody in the game, and I don't think you can expect that right now. Like, they had three forms, no peel back. It was a no peel back comp, no self peel comp besides Kai'Sa ult, into a comp that only hard engages but does it better than you. There's 2 hard engage comps, but one comp had 3 insane, like with Galio ult, Leona everything, Wukong double ult, and then they had the ability for Ezreal to self peel himself and Lee Sin to do whatever he's possibly able to do. Like, it really seems like they have a track, like a one-track mind. They're gonna play a comp regardless based on the pick and bans, like based on the bans.
They like to play 1-4, usually with Reckless on a scaling pick.
It's not always the same pick, but it seems like they have the pick, the comp that they want identified before they go in. Like, yeah. They don't draft accordingly to what the other team does. They already have a pre-draft expected. That's exactly what I'm trying to say. They pre-draft to the bans in the first round. That's what I think happens. And I think because
usually most Fnatic compositions are they play 1-4, split pusher, early game mid laner doing early game impact, and then you have Reckless on a more scaling ADC. Yeah, it's usually what they always try to do. Also forgot early game proactive jungler. You always have to have self-ban on a Graves or a Lee Sin. Self-ban's not playing no fucking Sedge. I mean, he could play Sejuani, but I mean, like, so what do you think about the Fnatic fans? They're always consistently blaming players like Hill is saying, and it's like, oh yeah, it's not his fault they're losing. I mean, he's not playing good, but like, what do you do? Who should be to the actual blame? Because Mithy can give them a perfect picture, perfect composition. Doesn't matter if they're not playing it out correctly.
I'm confused. Like, I think Mithy himself has not been picking. I don't want to give him no slack because he has not been picking the correct comps for them. He's like Nick is completely correct in that aspect. They've been picking extremely poor comps for the strengths to Fnatic. They've been leaving at least one of their main carries out on an island because like it's just not something I think most of them are comfortable on. I do still prefer like Bwipo for most of his career has been a better tank player than he has. I don't want to blame Mithy fully. I do think he's at fault, but I mean, there's nothing like even if he was coaching properly, there's nothing you could do about this team. They are just mentally imploding right now, and they just I don't know how to fix it. Like they have quality players, like they have a lot of talent on this team, which is the big problem for me. Mm-hmm. Just they have like Bwipo was terrible last year. He's good this year. He was good as rookie. Like he's been inconsistent his entire career. Nemesis has only had 2 seasons so far, and he was good in the first and bad in this one. And then Hylissang is just the most inconsistent player. Like Elements, I loved Elements so much. Remember how I had like 4 of their players on my fantasy team, and every single one of them didn't play at all, and I never took them out of my roster. I just didn't. I built the team and then never took them out.
But is it too early to like start panicking? Because it was week 4, so we're like halfway through the summer split, but they don't look good. Like, are people overreacting to how bad they are right now?
I think overreacting is not a bad thing because they definitely should get some slack towards how they're playing right now. But at the same time, they have time to bounce back. There's still some situations where I could see them getting back on the right track. I mean, I think it doesn't. I think coaching issues is definitely relevant, but I do think it is a mentality thing right now that's making them play poorly. So we're just gonna have to hope that they're able to get past it. They're able to push.
I just couldn't imagine a player like Nemesis feeling good right now, based on how I see his personality.
I mean, he had a good last season. I just feel bad for him.
I mean, but it always happens though. The sophomore year is always the hardest one though. Freshman year for certain players is always really good. They always look super solid. It happened with Jizuke. Looked really good his first year. Second year looked pretty bad.
He looked good his third. Like I think that I don't know if the sophomore thing exists. I just think sometimes rookies aren't able to adapt to the meta shifting for the next year. That's why that exists.
Like to be fair, Nemesis was never an impact. To be fair, Nemesis to me was never like that impactful as a mid laner. He was never a player where he was a super carry though. He always did his job, like pretty much did what a mid laner is asked of him, but he never went to that level. Like Caps, Faker, rookie. He was never that level of player.
It's not even just that Gilius was on the team. It's that Gilius had godlike. It had a godlike KD. He didn't die a single time against them. I think he was like 3-0-7 against them.
Oh
like,
my god!
It's just it's not just the fact that they lost to Gilius. It's the fact that Gilius styled on them on top of it. But I agree with that.
Gilius of all people, Gilius. Yeah, oh my lord, Gilius is so trash. But yeah, that's.
I have some problems with saying that. I think Gilius is not trash. I think Gilius is worse than he proclaims himself to be. But he genuinely, every time he comes on a terrible team, they completely, usually, besides this split, usually shift the dynamic of the team into an average team, and then he gets replaced by Kikis. Like, that's just how it works usually.
You know, I was thinking about the other day, why don't people play Kikis? He'd be a pretty good jungler in some of these teams.
I think there's better junglers than him now. That's why. I think that the state of junglers in the EU has just increased so drastically in the past 2 years. Like, Jankos is still the best jungler, but usually, I still think he is the best. You know, I still think he's the best jungler. I don't care about that. In the Polish league, yeah, I agree. But that's usually how it goes. Usually, Gilius is on a team, and then Kikis comes in the next split and takes the spot. So.
Same thing with Dardoch and Acadian. Usually Acadian's playing, and then Dardoch will come in and swoop his job from him. Oh lord, I feel bad. I feel bad for Acadian, always having to play with the backup his whole career.
Not even the worst jungler in the league, which frustrates me. Like, he could be replacing so many worse junglers than Acadian. Acadian is not the worst jungler in the league. He could literally have replaced Meteos. Could have replaced anybody. Like, yeah, he chose.
You know what people thought of? They thought that Golden Glue was going to go to 100 Thieves when they, if they had potentially next year drop Ryoma. But I don't think they are, though. I don't think they're going to drop Ryoma, though.
Probably, like, he probably is worse than Golden Glue. It's hard to say. The Roma's good games are something Golden Glue can never achieve. So, I don't know.
You think he's had not, like, any good games so far in his career?
Never that good. Never as good as what Ryoma's produced. No.
Is that because he's younger? You think that, or
what? No, he's had solid games. Golden Glue on average is better than Ryoma, I think, but I think Ryoma's highs are substantially higher.
All right, guys, the last topic tonight, since we already touched on Dardoch being back, which I think is not really going to make too big of an impact unless they get a win. If they get one win, all right, he made an impact. But TSM versus CLG, this was a shit fest.
What words did you just say right now to me?
This was a fuck. What is a clown fiesta? People, the CLG and TSM fans were hyping up this game like it was the last week's 100 Thieves versus TSM game. I was like, no, that game last week was way better. This one looked like crap. CLG were in positions to win, and they consistently threw.
CLG's they are in positions to win because they made aggressive early game plays. But they just never were in an actual position to win. They never had what I would say was the step up on TSM, because TSM was always proactive past like a few ganks. Like, they never pushed objectives with their lead. They never got anything besides kills. Like, that's something that's the difference between a solid team and an average team, usually, for the most part. Is the fact
kind of funny.
What is their kill? What are their aggressive early game kills attribute to? Do they get objectives off that? Do they get
push turrets?
Lead? Yeah. You don't always have to push turrets, but
getting Rift Herald to obviously push the tempo of the game.
Like, again, getting kills in bot lane, even with Dragon's up, is still positive. But like, I feel like at the very least, if you get kills bot, you should be able to contest it, and that's something that CLG just never did. They had options. They had options to contest those. At the very least, take early game Dragons after a few of the plays bot, but they just never attempted to. They just never attempted to do anything, and that's the big problem with CLG is that. I don't think they have the worst players in the league. Again, I think a lot of their players just are mentally like over at this point. I think that's what it is. I think there's just not somebody in the coaching staff that is able to fix the attitude problems that these teams got going on. Maybe they're just not having fun. I don't know. I have no idea what the problem is.
Ruin is statistically and playing like the worst top laner in the league. I mean, I thought he was bad last split. He got even worse. Does that even make sense? He got even worse. Like, what did CLG do to him? What happened?
I'd love to watch what Unicorns of Love can do, because I've heard nothing. I haven't got to watch enough of their games, but I've heard nothing but positive things about them. So it's hard for me to say. maybe, but again, I think that's something that happens every year. I think one team out of the minor regions is always doing extremely well, and they kind of take over the rest of the league. No one can compete against them. Like
look at what he's doing. Oh my god, he's so trash. Yikes, man. Aggressively attacking the Orin. He doesn't have priority, doesn't have vision, and he gets killed.
I want to point out, I think that also has to do with the fact that I think a lot of the situations he was actually winning a few of the duels, but there's no one on his team to follow up a lot of his like he's always getting out pressured because of the fact that his team is always more proactive around the map. Like, just look at that. Both of those things, there is a jungler coming up to stop him, and then there's a mid laner coming up. There's just like, at some point in time, when is his jungler going to come up and help him? I think Ruin could be a lot better on a different team. I still think he is a bad top laner, but I don't think like he is the single worst anymore. Like, there's a lot of situations where I see that he's actually getting made. He's looking a little bit worse because there's just things going on in the rest of the team that aren't like positive things are happening in the enemy team that aren't happening in his team. Like, again, I think there's a lot more roams going top. There's a lot more pressure. I mean, again, he still gets those carry picks. Unicorns could be top 2 or 3 LCS. I don't think they're better than TSM. I don't like. I haven't. Again, I'm not going to attest to that. I'm not going to say for 100%. I haven't watched enough of their games, but I do not think that Unicorns Love is better than TSM. I think they'd probably be third, but that's the most I can say. Like, again, I would have to watch more of their games. I don't know where to watch them at. I haven't seen the TCL too often. You watch them? I mean, if you watch them, I'm not going to argue with you. Like, I don't watch.
I mean, LCS. I mean, to be fair, LCS is like yikes. I don't know. The LCS leaves a lot to be desired in like a lot of the gameplay. So if they have better macro than about 8 other teams, they'd be pretty good here, I'd imagine. But it's the quality of players, though. It's the quality of their laners. Are their laners good enough? You can have great macro, but if your laners aren't good enough to execute it, doesn't really matter, though.
I don't know about Destroyed, man, because the team that they beat, they also got destroyed by the team that TCG is destroyed. So I'm not going to give them a drastic amount of increase. Like, I don't think they were better than Clutch Gaming that year. But at the same, I will give them credit for beating them. But I mean, it's hard for me to say. Like, if they're as good as they were last year, I don't think they're going to make it past group stage again. But I mean, I've heard that they're better. That's all I can say.
I'll give a few of their games. I'll watch a few of their games.
I don't watch every region. I'm sorry. I watch.
Yeah, I only watch just LCK, LCS, LEC, LPL. That's all I got.
That's like
I'll sometimes watch Oceania.
Okay, I will watch that then.
I'll watch a few games. I'll watch a few. How about this? Next episode, I'll watch a few games and I'll give you my insight onto their team. Just a little bit. Not gonna watch the full season. I'm just not gonna do that. It's just not. So what you're saying, Nick, is that they're essentially Cloud9 of the LCL. Essentially what he's saying. They're the Cloud9 of the LCL.
I do want to point out every single year there is one dominant team in most of the minor regions. So, I mean, I don't think I'm not going to attribute their record to more than anything. But if you say they upgraded in the bot lane and they look better than last year, they could possibly make it out of groups. I think if they are better than last year, I think a better version of last year's Unicorns of Love could definitely beat the number 3 team coming out of NA. I think that's very possible. I think they could probably beat, depending on how solidly, like, I won't say they could beat the EUs, because EU, honestly, again, I don't.
Yeah, because the EU third seed last year beat them. It was Splice. It wasn't a 5-game series, though.
Oh yeah, Splice didn't look good either. I'm saying I don't think the third seed from EU is going to be as bad as NA's nearly. Like, I think that their top 3 teams are pretty solid. So
also for CLG, I think that Wiggly and Ruin have the worst synergy of any top side in the league. I think Pobelter, Wiggly, and Ruin do not work out as like a substantially good top side. They're just all on different pages every single game.
Maybe you're actually right. Maybe the team is, the problem is that these teams are actually solid and they'd be better if they're in a major region, but they never get pushed to trying to improve, so they continually play at something that's always succeeded for them. And by the time they make it to Worlds, there's so many problems that they haven't been introduced to they're not able to improve as much as they would want to. Like maybe they start off the year as good as everybody else, and they just never have the chance to have solid. Like that's a good way to look at it actually. Like maybe like the fact that there's not enough good teams. Like just think about it like Cloud9. Cloud9 is not improving drastically, like exponentially throughout this entire year because they haven't had good enough teams to play against them. But at the same time, like just that's so much more of a problem for some of the minor regions because their good teams don't even have like challenger level teams to play against besides them. Like a lot of them just have extremely poor players. Like I can see the problem as to how teams like regions can't develop if they're not.
My problem with the little minor regions. This is my last thing before I gotta go because topics are over. Don't want to make this extremely long, but I am streaming tomorrow on my main channel, guys. If you guys want to come check that out, I'll be streaming sometime if you subscribe. But if you guys are watching this video as a VOD later on, just like as the stream is up, because I leave all the streams up for this series, just make sure to like the video. It really helps pushing the video up in the algorithm, so it shows YouTube that you like this stuff, obviously. But other than that, my main thing with a lot of the wildcard teams, and you can go back and watch 2019's play, makes them so dominant. But then when you come to an international event, that's not gonna. Your one style is not gonna work because there's better teams with that exact same style, so you're gonna get destroyed every single time. It's a problem they've always had. They never adapt, and they usually always consistently play the same players.
I do want to point out that I did kind of like touch on this a little bit in my statement. It's hard to adapt when again everything you've been doing as it stands right now has been succeeding in your region. Like if you consistently play terrible teams, you're not going to improve as a whole because what you've been doing has proven to work. But when you get to Worlds and it doesn't work anymore, what else do you have to rely on? Because you didn't have to swap anything up when you were in your region. Like that is a good way to look at most things. And I think that is why I think there should be more international competitions. Like, I think that's the one big thing. It's not more so that it would benefit NA and all these reasons, but I think a lot of the minor regions consistently playing against some of the top teams in the world would improve not only their team, but a region as a whole when some of the lesser teams are introduced to these different types of play styles and they can play against the main teams like that. Like, I don't know. I'm not going to say that would work, but
that was the problem with Flash Wolves. They were so dominant in their region, they never were able to translate or adapt differently at international competition because they never were exactly challenged in their own region, though. And that's why I agree with people, which is the next Rift Insight episode. It's Cloud9. Who's the best player on Cloud9? And are they? You know, people are predicting them to be like some sort of like 10th seed going into Worlds 2020 if that even happens now, based on what we learned today. So that Worlds might not happen, but people saying that Cloud9 is going to get destroyed at international events because they don't really have competition here. I mean, I can't disagree with that point though, because we don't. So what's working for them right now could not work at Worlds either.
I don't disagree with that. I mean, there's just nothing that they've done this year that hasn't succeeded. But I don't think NA has that problem because as much as we like to rip on NA, I do think they have substantially better competition than any of the minor regions. They have pretty solid player teams, even if they aren't great. I think Cloud9 could beat IG on specific days, maybe.
I mean, the Shy's playing pretty bad, so I mean,
I agree with that, but I think there's no answer to Rookie. There's no answer to a few of the teams in NA. I mean, to a few of the players that like IG has. I think, like, again, I could see it working out for them, but at the same, like, I could also see it, like, I can see why they would lose a series against them.
Yeah, but I think people are people either overrate them or they're underrating them. I think if you put them in a group with some hard teams, I think they can get out. But the issue here is
it depends on what hard teams they are.
That's the thing. That's the problem with World Group Stage. But guys, that's it for this episode of Rift Insight.
Okay, why did this change to Rift Insight? When did this happen?
Oh, I just renamed it. Like on the first. No, the first episode. I just renamed it.
Okay.
But yeah, this will be like. I guess we can try and make this a weekly thing. We'll just put it on Monday, probably earlier, because usually there's more viewers earlier on. So I'm gonna try and make this as early as possible from now on, like the usual time we used to do it, like around 7:30 8 o'clock PST. That's when most people are awake, but it's always nice doing a night upload so people who wake up can obviously have some sort of, I guess long video to watch at work. But overall, I think people are just either underrating or they're overrating Cloud9. That's my thing with them. It's like, what do you really expect from them? You can only expect so much, but they're much better than what they show. But it's also hard to see if they're much better than what they show either. That's just how I see things. Last question we'll tackle is, at least they don't have double lift, so they don't have to go 3-3. It's also true. That's very true.
That's more of a joke than anything. I do understand that. Like, I do think Double Lift is a pretty solid player. I think he played well at last Worlds, and that's the only one he has played well at. But I agree with that. Kind of sad. The only Worlds he plays good at, he doesn't get out of groups. Because Jensen wants to pick a Nivea into LeBlanc. Yikes. Whew. But yeah, that's it, guys. Make sure when you watch this video as a VOD on YouTube, as the stream is just me left up, just like the video, and that's it. So all you gotta do for me, and that's it. See you guys next week or whenever we return with this. This will most likely be a weekly thing. Most likely. No, guarantees. But if it's not a weekly thing, bi-weekly thing. That way it keeps the topics fresh and he gets to see me every single week, right? Bi-weekly means every other week, so I wouldn't get to see you every week.
That's good. So would you enjoy that more?
If I had to see you less, probably.
Oh, yeah. But yeah, I gotta go catch up on some games actually, because I haven't watched a few of them, just a few. I gotta catch up on a few games. That's pretty much it. As this video goes up, I have recorded a video with someone that'll be up later on tomorrow. I have the LCS and LEC Week 4 thoughts and opinions coming. That's it. Bye. Have a good day, guys. See you later. I'm going to bed.
All right.
Well, next week EU doesn't play. Oh. I actually did not know that. Well, good. Give me more times to analyze and watch the games then. That's good. Peace out, guys. Have a good day. See you later. Bye. Bye, Fong. Bye, Abigail. Bye, Nick.
My things over here.